Have you ever walked out into nature and had that what if moment? What if all of this was gone? Well, the sad reality is that we're creeping closer and closer to that moment every day with the overuse and unsustainable harvest of our natural resources. In Alaska, especially, there are many of these resources that are being depleted more quickly than in other parts of the world. Throughout my life, I have studied and observed our natural resources and our environment and have come to realize that even with conservation being a very large issue, not many people understand what it is and how they can help, or they just refuse to acknowledge it. In this speech, I will discuss what conservation is and why it's important, how individuals can get involved at both the local and more large scale level, and what this involvement means for conservation as a whole. Conservation is the act of using natural resources in such a way that they will not be depleted and can be used for generations, while still acknowledging human need versus natural need. According to Kariva and Marvier, conservation is a discipline that requires the application of both natural and social sciences to the dynamics of coupled human-natural systems. Without conservation, our natural resources would be used in an unsustainable manner and eventually would be used up. We have two different types of resources. We have non-renewable resources, such as minerals, fossils, and nuclear energy, which require conservation to be used in a way that makes these resources last as long as possible in order to get the most benefit from them. Then we have renewable resources, like plant material, sunlight, and geothermal heat, which are relatively simple to conserve in concept, but they require a lot of work to make it happen. This conservation is especially relevant in the state of Alaska because this area holds so much value in both in historical, cultural, and environmental context that it must be managed in such a way that will allow for the sustainable use of these resources. If Alaska is not properly conserved, we will use many of the resources that can only be found in this area, which will lead to a degradation of the ecosystem, a landscape barren of natural resources, and the inability for individuals to thrive in the state. Now, for the most part, conservation is seen as something only large companies or government operations are capable of achieving. But the reality is that we need individuals and communities to be involved in this effort as well. According to Fedorskov and Chalv, as global biodiversity continues to decline and climate change accelerates, conservation paradigms are trying to shift from exclusionary towards more inclusive models that recognize the crucial role of indigenous peoples and local communities. With the involvement of these individuals and local communities, we can better include these people groups in management plans alongside with the needs of the environment. Some ways that individuals can get involved in conservation include volunteering at local agencies. That's probably the biggest one I recommend. These agencies can include the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the U.S. Forest Service, the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, the Nature Conservancy, and the Alaska Conservation Foundation. In order to work on local conservation projects, like restoring rivers and stream banks, planting trees, and stocking fish, individuals and communities can come together with these organizations and create plans to achieve these outcomes. Now, these options may seem relatively simple, but they can have a profound impact on the conservation effort. Community involvement can have several effects on conservation, but the biggest one we see is stated by Whalen and his associates that giving people use and control over natural resources encourages their concern for conservation of those resources. We can see that when the community is involved in a management project, those individuals have the opportunity to bring in a new point of view towards the practice and shine light on how it will change the community and affect the environment where those individuals are located. People each have new and different perspectives on things, and those perspectives allow a deeper insight into the history of the land. So when this involvement is implemented, we can see all of these small effects adding to equal a large-scale change in conservation as a whole. These large-scale effects include the long-term preservation of resources through sustainable use and the replenishment of renewable resources. Without community involvement, these changes would never take place, and we would be stuck in a place where we constantly exhaust our resources. So, let's jump back to that what-if moment we were imagining, where what would the world would be like if all of our natural resources were gone. We wouldn't have the ability to breathe clean air, participate in outdoor recreational activities, and half of the necessities we rely on would be depleted. Can you imagine what life would be like if all of our natural resources had been used up? While some of you probably can, this is not something that I want to become a reality. The only way to ensure that this image never takes place is to get involved in the conservation effort. Without the help and contribution of the community, it's very difficult to effectively conserve our natural resources. Conservation is probably one of the most important aspects on our way to a brighter future. It allows an avenue for change, a quantifiable outcome, and a sense of belonging to those involved. So, my question for you is, how are you going to get involved in conservation? I recommend that you start small and work your way into the conservation effort to ensure the sustainability of our resources and that the natural world that we all know and love can continue to flourish for generations to come. Thank you.